Once upon a time, in a village cradled by mountains, there lived a man named Don. He was a young man, strong in body, yet weak in spirit. Each day, he woke to the sound of the birds and the rising sun, but instead of rising with the day, he lay still in his bed. The world passed him by. He had dreams, oh, many dreams, but they were like the clouds, distant, untouchable, and forever drifting away. The villagers spoke of him in hushed tones, calling him lazy, a waste of potential. His friends had long since abandoned him, tired of waiting for him to join in any meaningful task. Even his parents, once hopeful, had resigned themselves to his inertia. Why does he not work? They asked. Why does he not help? He has the strength, the youth, but he wastes it. It is as though he is already dead. The weight of their words pressed on Don's chest. He was hated not for any wrong he had done, but for what he had failed to do. He was a man of dreams, but not of actions. One afternoon, when the sun was high and the air thick with heat, Don sat under a tree near the edge of the village. He gazed at the mountain before him, but his thoughts were heavy and dark, like the clouds of a storm. He knew he was not like the others. He knew he was failing. But the thought of changing, the thought of action, filled him with dread.
Yeah.
As he sat there, lost in his self-pity, he saw an old man walking towards him. His hair was thin and white, his steps deliberate, his eyes calm. The monk did not look at Don with judgment, but rather with a steady, unwavering gaze. "Why do you sit here, young man?" the monk asked, his voice calm, as though he were speaking to the wind itself. Don sighed, his shoulders slumped. "I do nothing because I cannot. I wish to change, but the world feels too heavy for me. I do not know where to begin." The monk sat beside him without saying another word. For a long time, they sat together in silence. The sun moved across the sky, the leaves rustled in the wind, and the world continued to turn, indifferent to Don's suffering. Finally, the monk spoke again. "Do you see that tree?" he asked, pointing to a large, sturdy tree in the distance. Don nodded. He had seen it many times before. The tree was strong, its roots deep in the earth, its branches wide and full. "Do you know how it grew so strong?" the monk asked. Don shook his head. "It simply grew. Time passed, and it grew, I suppose." The monk smiled gently, his eyes kind. "No, it did not simply grow. The tree grew because it allowed the wind to move it, the rain to nourish it, and the sun to warm it. It did not wait for the perfect moment. It grew because it did not resist life. It moved with it." Don stared at the tree, confused. "But the tree is not like me. It is rooted in the ground. It has purpose. I have none." The monk's gaze softened, and he turned his eyes to the sky. "The tree is not rooted in the ground by its own will. It was placed there by the forces of nature. And so are you placed in this world, not by your own choosing, but by the same forces that shape the mountains and the rivers. You are not meant to resist life, young man. You are meant to move with it." Don sat in silence, the words sinking into him like rain on dry earth. The wind blew, carrying with it a whisper of something new. The monk stood, his movements slow and deliberate, like the setting sun. "Do not wait for the perfect moment to act," the monk continued, his voice soft but firm. "Do not wait for life to hand you a clear path. Life will not come to you. You must move with it, step by step, and in each step you will find your way. The first step is the hardest, but it is the only one that matters." With that, the monk turned and walked away, leaving Don under the tree. The young man watched him go, his heart still heavy, but his mind no longer clouded. For the first time, he felt the stirrings of something within him, a quiet force, like the pull of the moon on the tide. Days passed. Don did not wake up one morning with a sudden burst of energy.
I feel like if he ends up that way,
No.
then I
His
shouldn't
change
be
came
saying
in
it on
small
here,
moments.
LOL, just saying.
The first step was
I
to
don't want it
rise
to be
when
in
the
my
sun
history
rose,
or,
to walk when his legs longed to stay
that's
still.
exactly what's gonna happen,
Slowly
what I'm
he
gonna
began
do,
to move,
so
not with
this,
grand
like, leads
ambitions,
to,
but
like,
with
the
small,
evidence of all
quiet
that
steps,
criminal
like the
shit
tree
that
growing
will
in the forest.
be
The
looked up
villagers saw him
in the
move.
future.
At first it was just a small thing, helping
That
carry
will be
water,
looked up in the
gathering
future,
firewood.
LOL.
But as the days turned to weeks, they saw the change in him. He no longer sat under the tree, waiting for the world to come to him. He began to walk beside it, with it. And in that walking, he found strength. In the simple act of moving, he found purpose. One evening, as Don walked through the village, he saw the monk once more. The monk did not look at him with words, but with a look that said everything. And in that moment, Don understood. The monk had not given him a grand lesson, nor had he offered him a blueprint for success. He had shown him one simple truth: to move is to live. And in that movement, even the most broken of hearts could find their way. Don walked on, no longer a man waiting for life to come to him, but a man moving with life. And in the stillness of his soul, he found his own strength. You see, life does not wait for you. The river flows, the tree grows, and the sun rises, whether you move or not. Take one step, no matter how small. Move with life, not against it. For in that first step, you begin to change, and in that change, you will find your strength.
Damn Skippy Biatch!
Having a strong mind is super important for how well you do in life.
Sorry.
It's like a
We're still going.
power that helps you keep going even when things get tough.
Beep. Alright, I'm done.